Recently, I had the privilege of going to Tucson, Arizona, and I went there because a friend of mine who lives there told me about some amazing things that were happening in Christian unity. And honestly, once I got there, I realized I hadn't heard half of the story, and I still don't think I've heard the whole thing. But one of the things that really struck me while I was there, I interviewed the guy that started an organization called City Psalms. Brian Goodall started this to bring together Christian musicians, worship leaders from around the city to write and record songs for the city of Tucson, to encourage people to pray for Tucson, to encourage them to minister there in Tucson. And it's a pretty amazing endeavor. So I'm going to let you listen to what he had to say.
City Psalms started as an opportunity to be able to stir the church to pray for our city and to see Tucson as its mission field. And so what's a tool that could help us to be able to accomplish that? Well, songs are a great unifier, and it's a way that congregations can join in a song together to be able to provide a church with an opportunity for a song that helps them to see outside the walls of the church. I know that churches are always looking for ways to be able to engage their congregations with the city being the mission field. And so could we craft songs that help lead people in that way? What God is doing in our city, ways that we can pray for our city, so that when they're singing them in their congregations, their hearts and their minds are turned to the city that God has called us to serve, or whether they're in their car and they're listening to the music as they're driving through the city, that it would stir people's hearts to pray. The arts in general, music and arts, have a way of being able to stir culture, and that we have this huge network of Christian musicians and artists who are really talented and gifted and have the ability, if we just provide a coordinated way for those musicians and those artists to use their talents and their gifts outside the church, within the city, to cast a vision of Jesus in our neighborhoods and his movement within our community.
It's really important to clarify that City Psalms is not a band, it's a movement. What we want is we're bringing in, including worship leaders and songwriters from all across our city to write creative expressions in their own way, songs of prayer for Tucson.
I think there are musicians and artists all throughout our city who have hopes and dreams, and I would love to see the body of Christ serve our city in music and art. And I think there are lots of musicians and artists who want to be a part of that. They just don't have opportunities. And so can we just provide opportunities for musicians and artists to work together, to collaborate, to work on projects that impact our city for Christ? That's the way it started, and that's where it's been developing. It became we launched into a full-time ministry in 2019, and so we're still kind of young, but we have several albums under our belts with worship leaders and musicians from dozens of churches and all across different denominations, different ethnicities. The last album we put together had 4 different generations working together on music, and different ethnicities, different congregations, and so that whole process in and of itself is a really powerful. The product is a great product, but the process is so powerful too.
I love collaborating. I think collaboration is the highest level, even over individual achievement and accomplishment. Coming together with other brothers and sisters of like heart and mind, and sharing treasures, which I believe music is. It's a gift from God.
Man, it is so good to write with other Christians who are so different from me in the way that we think and the way that we write. It's so out of my writing comfort zone. It's been enriching to me, and it's been such a privilege.
The idea of the body with many different parts, and seeing that contextualized not to the one church, but to the city church, and understanding that we all have different parts to play, and if we're all working together, that's a really powerful functioning unit.
I thought that the idea of writing and recording songs specifically for their city was an amazing concept, but Brian is a visionary, and he's not stopping there.
So next steps with that would be, like we're planning on getting involved in after-school music programs. So can we get musicians and artists, Christian musicians and artists, who would love to volunteer their time to provide needs in schools for kids who would like to learn music or art? And then what we provide is not only that for schools, but we also provide kids, people who love Jesus and love them, you know. Can we provide workshops where Christians can teach about the arts, and it's open to our community and it's at low cost? And so now we have Christian artists and musicians who are helping provide opportunities in our community for musicians and artists, and providing leadership as well. And these are all areas that we don't have right now. There are huge needs, and Christians can fill them. Like, we can step into those. We don't have songwriting workshops right now. Well, we can do that. You know, we don't have arts conference in our city. We can provide that. It's a need for our city. Why don't we take the lead on that? And I think that the byproduct of that is not only would we have Christian leadership in these areas of music and art, which will influence the culture of our city, but I think it's going to change the way that our music and our art are reflected. You know, I think it's going to be more Christ-like. I think it's going to be more godly. I think that people who are not following Jesus will be more interested in the things of Jesus.
I think that City Psalms is not only an amazing idea, but one that is transferable to other cities. Perhaps cities all across the country, maybe around the world, should take this idea and bring together Christian artists, Christian musicians, and worship leaders to write songs, to create art, to encourage people in those cities, to pray for those cities, to minister there, and to take the lead in affecting the culture through their art as Christians. I think this has a lot of potential.